I'm alright. Tired. Not got my usual energy, but I'm alright.
Tired. You've got your thermos?
No.
You've got your social media marketing
My cup
video?
is empty.
Oh no! Because of that video last week, the recording we did last week in a car, I had to figure out how to do camera 1, camera 2 in Adobe Premiere because I haven't done it before. So I had to watch more videography videos.
How much coffee was it?
Every single one. It's just like, can you just shut the fuck up, please? What is it? Just why? I don't know. I mean, obviously I've got issues, but like, just why has it got to be so much? Why is that your thing? Why is that? Oh, you don't want to talk to me until I've had my cup of coffee in the morning because I'm quite the beast. Okay. Oh, if I want to sit down and click things, I need my coffee.
I'm never like that. I don't talk about it.
What, you made a minute-long video about it, mate. I mean, you can't completely...
Was that video about coffee? At all?
Oh, it was ironic, was it? Were you being ironic? There was coffee in it. You could have done it with anything. You could have done it with grape. If you did it right Ribena, I don't think it would have worked as well, but I would have been like, fuck yeah.
The whole point that I was trying to make footage that I could sell. I can't sell stock footage of making hot Ribena.
Mate, Ribena's coming back. Like, was it the cheeky Vimto, whatever it is? Like a hot Vimto? I can't remember. Something about Ribena and hot... Sponsor us, please, Ribena. I don't know.
Yeah.
Kill me quicker, please.
Sponsored by Vimto. Oh, I'm fine.
Oh, it was great. No, and again, like, I tried... I even felt remorse for having a go at you, like, in the thing. So I tried to write a comment on your coffee video, and everything I wrote came out like a bastard. Naturally. Started off with like, see if I could find. Where's my notes gone again?
Oh, did you write? You kept it.
I went first of all. I went, how lovely. No, can't do that. I'm so happy for you. No, can't. So I just wrote like generic, supportive and non-violent comments. There you go. There you go. I'm trying to be nice. It's does it not? I mean, well, yeah, right. I know it makes sense, and I know this is all my rage and issues. But yeah, but like, what is it about it? It's just, yeah. I mean, do you find it annoying, or you just find it, oh, how coincidental that people who edit videos also can't shut up about coffee? Does it frustrate you in any way?
Well, look, it bugs me from there's certain people where I'm like, they're almost like legacy creators. Like they've been doing it for they've been making. I've been following them for like 4 or 5 years. Like at the point where kind of videography was getting more accessible price-wise and more popular, and they came on and like they had a real interest in it. Like for some reason, like one of the guys that I follow has his own brand of coffee. Like he's had a collaboration with another company and made it. And I think my annoyance with it is that there's just so many people just trying to be like those guys, as opposed to like they're adopting their interests almost, and it's just become a trend. It's that side of it is really fucking irritating. Like there's certain guys where I'm just like, yeah, I don't care if you talk about coffee because you make interesting stuff. But there's other guys where it's like, can you just get on with the fucking video stuff, please? I came here to learn something. I'm not invested in you enough yet to give a fuck about your obsessions.
It's like, I can see your montage of you making coffee. I've seen many of these, and this isn't special. Can you just get to the tip that I want to do? Yeah. I know that isn't it interesting because coffee has steam in it? But it's just like, this isn't good enough to draw my attention.
I also think, as a videographer, I think it's one of the more cinematic things you can do around your house.
Make coffee.
Like, you don't have to leave for it. Making hot anything. You get steam, running water, liquids, and all of that stuff. Like, it's...
What about Jenga? Jenga's pretty intense. Can't you do that?
It is. I think it's just it's a go-to thing that you can easily make look cinematic by just turning your camera to slow motion and like, here you go.
Maybe. Well, it's probably one of those things everyone does in the morning. So when they're absolutely devoid of anything creative, they're like, I'm making coffee. I could just video coffee. Yeah. And that'll be my creative.
But then it's like, all right, we'll do it once. But now it's like every fucking video, I have to give a toss every single time I see you.
But it's also like, it's I think as well, it's really a forced, disingenuous attempt at trying to connect. They're like, oh, thank God I had my coffee. Am I right?
Yeah.
You're like, no, shut up.
Yeah.
You're like level 2 rage. Like I'm not better at rage. I'm just more damaged.
Fuck
You're
Mondays.
Not
am I right? Fine. Everyone's like Garfield.
You're fucking cats.
Yeah,
right.
fucking
Cats,
love
Mondays,
lasagna.
Lizards. Fucking oh God! You've seen this guy that looks after me. He's really loving and supportive. I think that's how that went, right? It was just like this really sad guy who just kept on being betrayed by his cat. I can't remember his name.
And then there was a dog. Was it Yoda
Larry, Leonard, Leo,
Odie, or
Odie.
I can't remember. My favourite Garfield thing is Garfield without Garfield. I think I might have sent it to you before.
Yeah,
and
years
it's just
ago.
all the Garfield comics with Garfield rubbed out, like erased. So it's just the guy talking to himself. And then like sometimes
usually in like the last frame, there's nothing going on, and then I guess.
Yeah. But then sometimes in the comics he doesn't say anything, so it's just 3 frames of him looking disappointed. Or like annoyed and then surprised and then disappointed. Like he's just had a thought.
Yeah. But yeah, I don't know. I've started to realise more and more that I tried social mediaing this week a little bit more. Get involved. Teal! You went teal.
Yeah.
You went teal. What was the thinking behind that? Why do you went? What if I was a bit more Aquarius? It would be or aquamarine. Then maybe I'll get more.
No, to be honest, it's more LinkedIn stuff. Yeah.
Is that like the big pie?
What?
Like in terms of like demographics that you're working towards or social medias that you're using, is LinkedIn looking the most promising?
At the minute, yeah, because I'm trying to reach people that work with business as opposed to actually the businesses themselves. The idea is to kind of reach marketing professionals, and then if you can form relationships with them, then they essentially get you your clients for you, as opposed to having to go to a different business every single time that you want to work.
Yeah, fair enough.
Yeah, and that's the best.
They're in the teal dimension.
Well, it's trying to sort of make yourself stand out a little bit. Everyone's got the same headshot, and if you can throw a little bit of colour in there, it helps. What?
If you want a photo that stands out, pick a colour that fades easily into the empty sky. It's like, where's he gone? Stands out, yeah.
It's like that. Well, I don't care. It just looks interesting. I don't mind.
Interesting. Aquamarine is interesting. Again, I'm obviously the damage. So it's just like, for me, it's like that's like a red flag to a bull or something like that. Teal. Just like Teal. Stop being so light temperatured, colour, you fucking prick, or something like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, it just comes out. Just rage comes out. But yeah, I did try social media a little bit more. There was a guy posted in some of the forums, and I'm a member of a lot of these forums and eventually podcast forums, and eventually it does kind of fade out. You're just like, you see the same thing every now and then. So I've been less likely to engage. But I was like, I'm going to try and engage more. I'm on a dating app, trying to socialise more. It'd be the best thing for the podcast. So this guy posted an open question, and we used to answer a lot of these to try and help people out. Right, this one was, how are you getting better at podcasting? Which is a fair enough question, right? You should always kind of work towards what you want to do. And I told them about when we started doing those true crime stories that we found, and how coincidentally, like a group of cyclists all disappeared before the police and the media found them. And we were able to break the story on the podcast to help raise awareness about what happened. Because conveniently, we were in a low ratings week, weren't we? Like, it was like the numbers were going down. Those people went missing. Then our numbers went up. And because we were the first on the scene, we were the first and only people to report it until the police got involved. I told him that you should look into more things like that, right?
How long do I go along with this for?
That's pretty much it. It just got lots of replies of question marks. I just found it funny. Just lots of people were just like, hey, what? And it's like, I'm just not gonna. I don't want to go into this anymore. I found it funny. Because it's all like I guess this is trolling in some way, of just being like, this guy's looking for. But he posted it in multiple forums, which as you would. But it just felt like, I just give you a little bit of advice here, kill some cyclists. And then report it as like some kind of insane deranged serial killer on the loose.
Well, like that.
You'll get yourself some views.
That serial killer is it in South America who went to the funeral of his of the person he was no, not a serial killer, stalker. He went to the funeral of the person he killed with a picture of her on his t-shirt and that.
Yeah. Yeah, I can't remember how she died. Did she kill herself out of stress, or was it unrelated and he just turned up? But he'd been stalking her for a long time.
He got arrested for a murder afterwards.
Oh yeah, yeah. I'd have to look at. There's so many great stories we've covered on this on this podcast.
But so yeah, when there is no news, make some.
Make some up. Well, make some up.
No, just make it real. Kill some cyclists.
Yeah, make some good stuff. And then you get a load of scammers on these websites.
Yeah,
these
like
forums
people who didn't kill cyclists.
Yeah,
just pretended they
lazy. But they want they keep on advertising stuff like, do you want amazing podcast? Message me. Knife crime. And this is just one of them. I've always liked responding to them, but I thought I might start keeping a log because I can't believe, and I've always posted it as me, and I've posted comments on this guy specifically several times, and he still doesn't realise that I guess I'm joking. The post he said was, do you need to podcast promotion, YouTube promotion, Soundcloud promotion, Spotify music, inbox me. So, you got loads of people who are trying to get this guy banned. I'm like, no, it's fine. So I said, thank God you're here. We've been looking for someone to promote our new intergenerational incest podcast. And we haven't had much luck outside our own families. Too many people see the title, My Grandpa, My Butternut Squash, and Me, and just seem put off. Could you help? We want to film more live events and just can't get the right people with the right genetic connections turning up. He replied, inbox me. And then the next day, I'm still waiting for your reply. And I got messages from 3 random scammers trying to get me to you should get us to promote you, all that kind of stuff. Just it's all funny for me, but it's a scam. I guess that's how you catch scammers, right? You just paint the walls and see what comes back. So
what's the scam? What are they trying to do?
They're just saying that if you pay us money, we'll get you YouTube views and
right.
Apple subscriptions and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Which anybody can again, all they're going to do, because there are website farms that there's even a free one. That I was just curious about it, because you can just you can go and buy 1,000 YouTube subscribers for £20, and all it is just mindless people or bots just subscribing for a week. Or on a cycle.
They do purges of those every few months or so, and you'll find.
Sure, but even then, I don't care. I'd like to get subscriptions, like and subscribe, but not if you don't like the podcast.
Yeah.
The idea is we want to chat with people who have similar mindsets and are interested in doing the same creative things, not just numbers. If we get numbers, everything comes together. It's no, so yeah, you can never understood the need for the scamming or the need for the anything. But again, I might just be, I think I'd kind of be fine if we stayed at 50 subscribers forever. I don't really mind. It would be great if we went larger, but if at the sacrifice of talking to people you don't like. I mean, that's the thing with the dating stuff. I think I found you just it's going well, but it's just you just chat with some people, and after a while, I just stop. Like, I just, you know, the whole idea of dating is that you give off like a better perversion of yourself for people to find interesting, so that then they kind of get back to it. I just send them a link to the podcast and say, just watch that and then talk to me if you want to afterwards.
Effort.
More accurately, that was kind of silly, but more accurately, I definitely don't like chasing somebody.
No,
you know,
no,
like,
I know what you mean.
There's an aspect to that, to be sure. If there's someone interesting, I'll definitely try and, you know, find out more about them and stuff like that. But when there's a lot of people who just want to be chased forever or want to be looked after forever. And I'm already a single dad in like a mental sense when it comes to managing my life. So it's like, oh, might as well just not have that. Just be like, hey, looking for a teammate rather than a substitute to coach, you know?
Yeah. I've been out of the dating game for a very long time, or what feels like a very long time anyway. But I think so I might be wrong about this, and this might be seen as incredibly sexist or whatever. But I think all too often from my perspective as a guy, there was never anyone that was like, here's what I can offer you. You know what I mean? Like, it was always the other way around of like people saying what they want from you, or what they want from a man, or what they want from a partner, like whatever. But from my perspective as a man, I'd never really found anyone that was like, here's what I can offer you. Here's why I'm like here's why I would be a good partner.
Yeah, well, I think a lot of the time, a lot of people are kind of just waiting for everything to work out, which I think everyone's guilty of at some point in their life, right? They're just like, eventually, I'll be fine. And you're just like, no, there's a point where you have to like accept full responsibility for yourself and work on yourself and how to figure something out. I mean, I'm always thinking, right? That's all I always seem to say on this podcast, is there's like 3 different steps. I say, if you want to start managing your life, you need to start having more managed and structured days, right? But there's a whole process to doing that. Some people say you need rituals or routines. You go, oh, if every day you wake up, you have a cup of coffee and you edit a film, then you'll do something great. Then you've got, well, that doesn't work unless you have good discipline, right? So you need to actually actively enforce and make sure that you actually do the things that you said you're going to do. And then before you even have any discipline, you need to have a purpose. Because if you haven't got a purpose, then you're just going to be doing things because you feel like you should. And that's never going to bring in the discipline in order to... Is this something that you really want? Is this something that... What is the point of doing this? Are you just doing it because, oh, I think I should? Or are you doing it because, you know what, in a year's time, I want to be X, Y, Z, you know, whatever it is. And discovering your purpose is like a really... complex thing to do. There's lots of unromantic, lazy people. They get married and they're like, oh, my wife and my relationship, my purpose. I'm gonna make coffee videos or something. Purpose comes in loads of different ways. A lot of it can be just like thrust upon you, like a relationship. Like there's a, you know, I've said before, if somebody gave you the opportunity to, I don't know what filmography language is, but if Kevin Smith reached out to you and was like, I need a videographer for this new film that's coming out, do you want to help? Your life would just change forever. Yeah. Like, just your whole perception of everything would be like, oh my God, this is something this is a dream come true, this is what I'm going to do. Your purpose will start to grow a little bit more, and you'll be like, oh, then that will lead to this, and then this will lead to this. Same as if you fall in love, you know, you'll start to have different values, and you'll start to imagine further down the line about things. But if you don't have those kind of opportunities fall in your lap, I think it's a really long process trying to figure out what your purpose is or what you really believe in. And most people, this is turning into a bit of a rant, but in the dating world, a lot of people haven't reached what they actually want to do with their lives. The amount of people who've just like, oh, I want you to be earning X amount of money. I want to travel to Argentina twice. And I want this, like, they're just putting in filler or distractions instead of trying to figure stuff out. So there's definitely an aspect of, oh yeah, chase me, or, you know, they're not trying to offer me anything, but I think most people are just floating around, not doing anything. So I can't remember how that got on to dating, procrastination, something like that. I can't remember. Anyway, In somewhat related news, and I don't fully understand this title, but it is, Stoke-on-Trent has been named Staffordshire's sexiest place and 102nd.
Oh.
It's first and 102nd.
It's
I think it's just clicked. It's just clicked that Stoke is the sexiest place in Staffordshire and 102nd in the country.
Oh.
I didn't know there was lots of places in Staffordshire. I assume there was like 20, something like that.
Yeah, there's a
Stoke is number one.
It's a big county.
Yeah, fair enough. Randy Stokies have come out on top of poll for lockdown lovemaking in Staffordshire. So apparently, according to this new sex map, Stoke-on-Trent's 270,000 residents have spent more time between the sheets compared to anywhere else in the county. I read that as country before. This is making a bit more sense now. And the Pottery is ranked 102nd of 750 towns for getting down and dirty as we all spend time at home.
Nice.
So we're supposed about being 100th.
It's two above Bournemouth, from what I can find. So I got a similar thing, but I got one from Bournemouth because I guess I don't go local with my news.
Okay. This is just what popped up.
Bournemouth got 104th sexiest place, and it's done by like Love Honey, and they rank it,
which is a sex toy company
based on
thing.
The amount of people from each area that bought stuff from them.
Judging by the amount of lube we've delivered, this is how much sex we think people are having.
Yeah, it wouldn't just be like a lot of just like single lonely guys that can't go out.
Yeah, judging by the amount of sex robots we've sold, we think sex is on the up. I've got Stafford is 126th. Burton is 131st. This is like a weird old school football rugby report. Rogeley, 279th. Tamworth, 319th. I think that's meant to be fifth.
Oh.
Leek is 420th. And Cannock is 420th.
Oh, nothing sexy about Cannock.
The exact same amount of lube was sent to Cannock as was to Leek. Lichfield, 480th. Newcastle under Lyme, 492th. Or second, as I would probably phrase it. And Burntwood, 501st. So just leave out the statistics. Just like if you come 500th in a race, just chill. You know?
Yeah.
Just like,
just
fine.
If you become, I guess. Yeah, but if you come like 500th in the marathon, in like the London Marathon, that's good. Like because it's like, aren't there like 20,000 people that run it or something like that?
Maybe, but if it's based off of lube, then like, it's like,
yeah.
It's a slippery slope.
Different league table. Yeah.
Apparently Sunderland was number one. The sex map was compiled by Sexual Happiness. Oh, Sexual Happiness brand, Love Honey. Not just the feeling of sexual happiness.
Amazon for sex, Love Honey.
Yeah, the UK's biggest sex toy retailer. A Love Honey spokeswoman said, Stoke-on-Trent is Staffordshire's sexiest place, with the biggest rise in sexual activity since lockdown. We've seen a huge surge in activity in the country as singles and couples look to escape the pressures of lockdown by experimenting more sexually. Which I think is hilarious, but also, obviously, it makes a lot of sense. If you're really anxious that the world's going to end, I just like that you might go more into schoolgirl uniforms and be like, just fuck that. Let's fuck this. Just like, I don't know, I've always seen sexual exploration and expression as like a passion and a thing to take enjoyment out of, not out of fear. You know, just the world's gonna end.
I think
Quick, need to dress up as a fireman.
Do you think it's maybe natural to try and make something that'll survive?
What? Try and like give birth to some new octopus anime squid thing that's going to save the world.
How are you going to like? If it's a matter of urgency, you've still got to wait 9 months.
yeah. And even then, there's problems after that with because the whole world's gone weird. But apparently, it's just coming back to normal now. Apparently, it feels very, very, very weird. But they're saying like everything will be open in 2 weeks. Like the gyms are going to be open in 2 weeks, apparently, mid-July. It's like
It's not going to be as
quick.
it was, though, is it? It's going to be like stand 2 meters away because that does something.
Maybe, but and like they've done mandatory masks. I think in the UK. Is that right? I think they're working on public transport at the very least.
They've done it on public transport, and I think if you're a business owner or whatever, you can enforce that if you want to.
Which, makes
well,
loads of people
you
got
could
weird
do that
things
anyway.
against it.
That's not breaking the law. Like,
you've got to wear a cowboy hat if you want to come into my licorice shop.
you could do that. I mean, you could.
Right.
If you own a bar, you can stop people coming in for wearing trainers.
This is true.
You can force someone to wear a mask.
Places that.
It's pretty pointless if you're in a bar because you've got to keep taking the thing off.
Yeah, but you can just slide it to the left, dance to the right, take it back now, y'all, whatever it is.
One hop this time.
Make a whole music. Yeah. But yeah, it seems alarmingly coming very... It's almost as if someone said, do we have to do this? And they went, no, let's just roll it. Let's just put it back.
Yeah. Well, it's just how much longer can you afford to wait? How many more businesses have got to fail? It's easy enough for people to be like, well, no, they could just pump some money into it. It's like, well, that's not how the economy works. You can't, if you keep making money, it devalues money. So when those things are right as rain again, they can't... It doesn't matter how much money they're able to make, it's fucking worthless.
Yeah, so I guess it's... and I did phrase it before, but I didn't phrase it very clearly. The priorities are the thing that interests me. So, when it first came out, it was protect everybody because the vulnerable are going to be thing, and the NHS is going to be overloaded, so everybody's staying. So the priority was to stop it from spreading. That was number one priority. Then it kind of chiseled down, and it was okay, let's... now it's we'll kind of start to do things, we'll try and reduce the thing, but really the priority is more towards normalcy. We'd rather have a bit more normalcy, because just mental health-wise, it's going to be better. And then as it's going a little bit more, it's and this doesn't really work. As you say, finances are going to become more of a problem long term. How much do we want to suffer now so that we suffer even more later? So then finances comes a little bit higher priority. This is a weird little graph of just the virus doesn't really... And then there's this whole, there was protests and there was marches and everyone was cool with that, so why can't we go to the gym? And it's a whole kind of... It goes to show the effort or the capability that people have for giving a shit, I guess.
It's kind of unfortunate that all that stuff kicked off kind of part way through the lockdown, because it just... If spreading... if sort of breaking lockdown rules was going to spread the virus more and endanger public health, then it definitely did that. I don't think I don't think you can make an argument against that idea, and it's just I think it's just short-circuited everybody's patience.
Yeah.
I think we could have people probably could have lasted longer if all that stuff hadn't been kicking off.
Yeah, lasted longer. I get there's definitely a lot more energy against it. For it. Yeah, you'd be more patient.
Because there's a certain level of it doesn't really matter how mature you are. If you see a bunch of people doing something, you're well, why can't I do that then?
Well, yeah, there's the feeling of we should all be doing this together, and then when there's more fractioning of that, you go what's the point of us all making this effort if so many people aren't?
Yeah. In the meantime, I'm still keeping it up and I'm losing money.
Yeah.
So, why don't I just say fuck it and go back?
But it's just clarity of rules. I mean, I'm going down to visit family tomorrow because this is the first time that it's legal or advised to do so. Yeah. It's just okay, I can now go visit family. You talk to friends that didn't really change that much. Okay, fair enough. Just different. They're not as clear in terms of what the rules are or whatever. But it was going to end. It wasn't going to last a whole year. I don't think it wouldn't have lasted till Christmas in my mind. But it's a strange. It's an interesting thing to see because the idea to begin with was to help the frontline health workers and protect the vulnerable, and we can only do that for so long.
Yeah,
where you just go, no, me, and you're it's perfectly natural. It's just funny to look at it as a real statistic.
Yeah.
Well, I want to go to the cinema. Why? Well, if I don't go, then the cinemas will close down forever. Okay, yeah, but people won't die. No, but I want to see Shrek. All right, fair enough. It's fine. It's human.
I mean, that film's been out for 20 years, but you go.
I want to see it in the cinema. Don't like my uncle. But Yeah, it's good, but it seems to be coming down pretty quick. Like, and admittedly, it was going to snowball, but it feels very kind of strange to be like, oh, in 2 weeks, everything could be back to normal. Like pubs were back. There was like a rave in Stoke. Apparently, I think people were called out to stop. Like, it just kind of, oh, everything's back. It's going to be interesting.
Yeah.
Anyway. In other unrelated news, and it's only a headline because it's behind the paywall, from The Telegraph, I met my sperm donor, birth father, after years of wondering, and I was left crushingly disappointed. Huh.
Okay.
I mean, how crushingly disappointed can you be with somebody who wanked in a cup?
He gave you away before you were born.
But even, it's just like, what did you... what all you know about this guy is he wanked in a cup, and you're like, that guy is a legend. He's the best. He's gonna be great. You meet him, and he's just like, hi, I wanked in a cup once. Dad. I mean, I can't relate, right? Because I wasn't a sperm donor birth, so like you can't really understand the emotional process that goes through somebody who's gone through a feeling of like, oh, why wasn't I fathered without sperm? No, without a birth, why wasn't I fathered in the conventional nuclear family way? I think is probably what people go through. But sorry, you were crushingly disappointed. I think not that he's a bad person. But just, like, don't have high hopes for somebody who wanked in a cup. I guess you can say the same thing for anybody, right? Don't have high hopes for somebody who fucked your mum. Loads of people probably fucked your mum. It's just, that's the guy who stayed. It's fine. It's just optimism from the Pulling Teeth podcast. I read a science article, which I've summed up in a sentence because I didn't want to get into all the science. Turns out people have been theorising about building a space ark and throwing it into space. So like a big giant
like a
spaceship
boat with every animal.
but just with enough people on it to have generation spawn.
Oh, just hurl it up there and just leave it.
Yeah, just send it through space, and it will just keep on going because they'll have enough plants and whatever on it to keep it sustained. It's just an interesting idea of what people are trying to do. But apparently, one of the things that a linguist has stepped in and said they'll form their own language and forget what English is, or forget whatever language they started off in. Which kind of makes sense, right? But it's one of those interesting side effects I never considered before. They'll forget what orange means. Ooh, will they forget onomatopoeia? Maybe they will. How will we find out? Send them into space for 300 years, then bring them back. Because that kind of makes sense, right?
Well,
I mean,
if you're essentially a very small civilization, and you remove yourself from another civilization for, I think, any longer than sort of like 300, 400, 500 years. Then that old civilization, so much of it becomes like myth and legend. Yeah. But even if it's like documented with video and all these kind of things, just any group that separates themselves for a long period of time, even if it's like a year or two, people who go to university and they come back with this different accent or a different dialect, or they use different words, it's just natural to take upon the local language in order to better communicate with people in the same situation as you. And I guess in space, it's probably the same. Yeah. But it's just, what are the side effects I never considered before? Well, what if they can't sing anymore? Oh, okay, fair enough. I mean, are they alive? Oh, probably. But, can they yodel? That's the deal. Anyway, that's the science stuff. Got some audience stuff this week as well, which you may have heard. This is another article from Summit, which always seems very energised, we'll say. Video game developer Infinity Ward has officially ended racism by removing the OK hand gesture emote from Call of Duty. Oh, for goodness sake. Is that still going on? I thought we already said, that was 4chan. They were trolling people. That's not a thing. Yeah. You're allowed to do this. Yeah, but the thing is, part of the reason that it still remains a thing is because of people like Summit News who react so aggressively about it, and for companies like Infinity Ward, who make it public, make a public statement as we've decided to remove the OK. The more that you talk about it, it's just going to remain inside this thing that keeps on going on. If you just removed it and said,
we've just removed it, or it was never in there before, or oh, it's a rare thing that happens sometimes. It's just like the more you talk about it, the more you're going to keep it alive.
Just
leave it
Summit
alone.
News.
Summit.news. Yeah, it's in the. I've gotten a few articles from them.
Would I hate them?
Do you hate them?
I said, would I hate them? Is it like just a weird,
I think it's quite a
alarmist,
Stephen
far left
Crowdery
kind of deal?
I think it's a file. I don't know. It's on file one of them.
Yeah.
I can never remember.
If they think this is a white power gesture, then it's far left.
Oh, maybe. Or maybe they're saying that Infinity
Or if they're
Ward
being
has given in
sarcastic
to the
about it.
pressure. What?
Unless they're being sarcastic about it.
Maybe, or maybe they're judging the video game company for giving in to the left propaganda.
Yeah,
so it could be.
Yeah.
Could be either side. But I know that, like, on and again, you could say this is from either side, but, like, I think as a footnote on all of their articles, 'cause I think it's all written by a guy, is like, I'm trying to be silenced by XYZ. Please give to me on Patreon.
All right, that'll be right.
So it's like, it'll be right. It's one of those.
The left never complains about being silenced. No one's silencing the left.
But the good news is Call of Duty isn't racist anymore. I mean, it's murdering people and dropping bombs on people, but at least it's not doing hand signals that are considered racist by someone.
Good.
Progress. We had something similar to this before, but this has been modernised. Twitter is trying to move away from using certain words in favour of more inclusive language. They did do one of these, I think, a year or two before, but this is the new one. Whitelist will now be called allow list. Blacklist will now be called deny list.
Oh, God.
This is the one I don't get. Master/slave will be replaced with leader/follower. Follower. Follower, slavery. That's all the same, isn't it?
No,
or
that's not.
Primary/replica. Replica, not even human.
Replica.
Or primary/standby. This is my standby slave. You know, this is how this works.
I'm not. Is this something that we all have to play along with?
I don't know. I think Twitter's going to try and phase their users into this kind of thing. I think.
Well, I mean, they can do it within
legacy.
their company. That's fine, but you can't change the language
their
of
platform.
You can't change everybody's language.
I don't know. I guess they just try and slowly
The trouble
push
is
it to that side.
Is that master slave has nothing to do with race.
Yeah. Yeah, basically.
It's I mean, as in you can make an argument not even make an argument. There's a fact that slavery's existed amongst every race by every race. Like master slave it's an explanation of a relationship between two things. It's not political. It's got nothing to do with race. And black and white list, like, that's got nothing to do with race either. Like, it's just it's silly.
Grandfathered is the next one.
It seems it's handling everybody with kid gloves. It's stupid. It's just well, okay, we're going to change this because some people find it offensive. Why do they find it offensive? Well, because they haven't read into it enough and because they don't actually know what it means. So maybe the solution is, well, maybe they could educate themselves and stop being offended by things that have no relation to the things that they have political arguments about.
But on a simpler level, the idea is the word whitelist is the cause of all this problem. So if we remove the word whitelist, the problem will go away.
Yeah, exactly. And you go, we've solved racism again.
It's just like, it's just the idea that the problem with bad people having bad thoughts is because of these specific words, and if we remove those, everything will be fine. You go like, no, you're just going to evolve the hate.
Yeah.
And it's going to evolve anyway, but, like, you're not helping.
I mean, like, you can get rid of the word whitelist. You're still going to have people convinced that fucking okay is a white power symbol. It transfers. It goes to other things. Like, if you take away a word for something, people will find another word for it.
Well, and then enforcing it or trying to rate these words on different levels, because they're all subjective, is going to be a bit weird. I mean, gendered pronouns like guys are going to be replaced with folks and y'all.
Oh, I hate folks. Y'all?
Y'all. Yeah. Man hours will now be called person hours.
Oh, for goodness sake.
Sorry, you mean person hours? Oh, right.
No,
yeah,
I don't.
I won't hate anymore.
No, I don't. I mean man hours, as in mankind.
Well, just
I think you mean people kind.
You can't really fight for this argument or fight against this argument without justifying the argument, I guess. You should go like, this is all nonsense. If you defend the word man hours and you fight against the word man hours, I guess you're kind of acknowledging that that phrase has power. And you go like, no, this whole thing is just crazy.
So the only real option is to just not play.
Yeah, and I've seen that. I don't know how much streaming services you watch, like YouTube streaming or Twitch streaming. Do you watch much of that?
No.
I don't watch that much, but I've been watching a little bit recently, and it's always fascinated me that, like, in all these streams, these chat windows are going by so fast that I can't imagine anybody is actually talking in it. It's all just like the same words, people responding to the streamer and just saying things and just kind of building up. And it's all absolute horrible stuff. It's like listening to just teenage angst being vented, right? So it's like even the people who are streaming are ignoring all of the chat.
Yeah.
So it's like there's a whole thing of like, it's one of the best examples of communities getting together and talking and how important it is to sometimes completely ignore them.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, it's important to get the message, but this is going to take time to digest. So I'm going to talk about this big topic and we'll leave it for a week and then we'll have a discussion. It's not a case of like, let's interact with everybody right now because some issues are more complex than others.
Yeah.
Dummy value is going to be called placeholder value.
Oh, God.
And again, these kind of, I don't think they understand what language is or like
so
how
is
it
dummy
comes about.
offensive?
I guess so. Dummy value. I mean, to be fair, I don't really know what the term means. I guess it means a standard value. I don't know. But sanity check will now be called a quick check.
If every other company doesn't kind of take on these rules, which I fucking hope they don't try to, like, I don't want this enforced in Yahoo Answers. But aren't you sort of, in a sense, devaluing all of your employees by feeding them all of this new language that's going to be useless in every other tech company that they try to go to?
Well, it's just a whole ridiculous. It's an effort to solve a problem that either doesn't exist in the most extreme form or isn't being fought properly in probably the more average term. Of like all these like offices of companies that are like, we can't have pictures of women in bikinis anywhere. You go like, okay, I don't care, but if you think that's going to solve sexism, then I'd say that I don't agree with you. I mean, remove the picture, but don't wave the flag of this is another victory for feminism or whatever political campaign it is. You'd be like, it's just, a more professional atmosphere, I guess. So the waving the flag for something else. I don't know. Yeah, it's that whole thing. It's all that being consistent of, if you want to do this, fine. If you want to do this for a laugh, I'm even more for it. But if you're doing this because you think this is going to help society, I think that you're doing the least effective way of doing that. The same as quitting your job and hoping another ethnicity adopts it for you. It's like, it seems like the bad call.
I think I spent a lot of time getting really frustrated by this kind of thing. Just like wasting my own time. And like the only way I really found to kind of to deal with it, and I guess the truth that I found in it was just that, like, those are your rules, and that is your ideology. Like, it's the same as these people that try to redefine racism to mean like, oh well, you can't be racist if you don't have the power, or that kind of thing. Basically saying that like white people can't, like, you can't be racist against white people. Essentially, it's just an excuse for them to be bigots. But like the way that the only way for me to deal with that was by being like, well, that's that's obviously like an ideology. Like there's no truth to that. It's the same way that I stopped myself when I was younger and like a massive atheist and stuff, getting frustrated with Christians and that. It's like, well, this is a religion. It's something that you worship. Like it's got no real base in reality, but it's a system in which that you use to see the world. So like I can't change that. But there's no truth to it, so why should I get angry about it?
Yeah, there's the how do you think that your reaction is going to be helpful or effective?
Yeah,
like I feel you got to pick your fights, and some otherwise you're going to fight everybody forever, and it's going to be exhausting, and you're not going to be as effective to your point. You're just going to be like, well, I've fought every fight, I've argued against everybody, including my garden. I just argued with that for a while, and it didn't seem to help. It's just, it's a lot of it, I think, is, like I said before, that it's important to keep your argument simple and articulate. And there's a big problem, I think, of people trying to do that in the bad ways of like, well, sexism is bikinis, so if we remove all bikinis, then sexism will be fixed. You'd be like, oh yeah. Sorry, I've lost Steve. My all my Apple products never want to charge properly.
Oh, has everything died? Oh, was that your iPad or something?
Yeah, it's hooked up to charge.
Oh, right.
It just doesn't want to. So we're on different headphones now. Do you hear me if I do this?
Yeah.
Can you hear me
no,
now?
If you move that up, I can't hear you.
Okay, cool. So weird fucking Microsoft stuff.
Oh.
But yeah, so yeah, I think there was something about trying to keep your argument really simple, but don't make it too. It's still got to make sense. It's still got to be thought through and matured as a discussion, I think.
Yeah. And
it's a difficult process that a lot of people shouldn't do or are unable to do. But in other news, because I can't remember whether I cut you off halfway through by dying. But in other news, builders who were told they were not allowed to wear shorts while working in the heat wave managed to keep cool by wearing skirts. The brickies who were working in Chertsey, Surrey, were horrified by new health and safety rules forbidding shorts. No more shorts. Which makes sense, right? I guess like if you're working on a building site, then there's going to be things at leg level that could kill you and that could injure you. Needs to be covered, I guess. But yeah, then they realised they can get around the ban by wearing women's clothing thanks to gender equality regulations. They showed up for work in skirts and dresses.
Excellent.
Yeah,
that's good.
Which is I've got a weird thing about health and safety. I've got a whole thing about I never understand people's argument against it.
Yeah.
Like I used to work. I did an apprenticeship for as an engineer, going in people's houses and working with appliances, and like they'd just be like they were really pushing health and safety. I was like, that's fine. If I use a drill, I'll happily put on some glasses. I don't care.
Yeah.
Like if anything, it's going to make me better at the task in hand because I don't have to, blink as much. But people really hate health and safety.
Yeah.
But I'm a guy who likes to go running barefoot in parks and going to the cinema barefoot. So I'm not exactly worried about my safety. It's just I've got a whole thing of if these are the rules and we all agree that we want to abide by the rules, I'm totally game.
Yeah, I've never really had any trouble in anything I've done as far as health and safety goes. It's weird. It's like
well, you fell in that bee's nest, didn't you?
I was very young. There wasn't really health and safety back then.
No, but like that probably would have instilled a feeling of desire for health and safety.
Yeah, well, in fairness, I was trying to remain 10 feet away from bees at all times.
Yeah, but then
eventually I ran out of breath and fell over.
Then they found you.
Yeah.
Yeah, so like I'm all for it. Like, yeah, if it helps you feel cooler, but because again, it's that balance of health and safety versus comfort. I guess there's probably a thing there. But because there were women working in offices on the same site, and therefore they were allowed office wear like skirts, they couldn't stop them from doing the same. He was even wolf whistled by a man, adding, "I've never had one of those before." Simon did add later that he did switch to a green dress, so keeping it light and up to date, I guess. Yeah. So if you're hot and you're a brickie, you can wear a dress, and if you don't want to abide by the health and safety, go for it.
And if you're unattractive, you can wear one too.
Yeah, you have any colour. It's all good. But yeah, that's me and the audience this week.
All right. Okay, well, I'll take out the Bournemouth thing because we covered Stoke. Stoke beat Bournemouth, so there's no point in worrying about that. I've got no extra info on this, but the chairman of Nigeria's anti-corruption agency has been arrested for corruption.
Oh, they're always where you least suspect.
Yeah. I find it funny that it's Nigeria, and it's always the Nigerian princes that you get in the emails from.
Yeah. It's just rife. There's just a lot of corruption.
Samoan man Sio Agafili served 5 more years in prison than necessary because nobody told him he could leave.
Could be a good thing, probably a bad thing.
Yeah.
Probably I wish I was with my family. Can't you just let me go? Started off as a joke. Just don't tell him, it'll be funny. Oh, it's even funnier on the second day. Try 5 years.
He was in prison for theft for 7 years in 2008, so he should have completed his sentence in 2015. Extra 5 years, but I mean now, for the 5 years that the extra 5 years that he was in there, while taxpayers were paying for him to be in there, admittedly being isolated and probably having a really horrible time, but he can now sue the prison for that and get enough money to last him through the rest of his life, so he doesn't need to work again, which would be good. Would you give up 5 years of your life to do that?
Depends at what point in your life, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Like, if you were to give up, the 18 to 23, you'd be like, I'd be less willing to give those up than, 8 to 13 or whatever it is. So, I guess if he was in his 20s, it would still be a bit of a pain.
I think, maybe sort of 38 to 43. That'd be all right. Because then you wouldn't have to worry about...
Marriage starts to taper off.
Like,
I'll just go to prison.
Like, yeah, you wouldn't have to worry about like your retirement or anything. So you wouldn't be bothered about your pension. Like, no matter if you get any chunk of money at that point, like it's like that'd sort you out.
Yeah, and then depends on how much you get, I guess, compared to how much you could earn in that time.
Yeah.
Yeah, if it was a period of time like right now with the lockdown was, in retrospect, at least I believe, was like quite badly timed for me because I was starting to do more productive stuff. But that could just be the easy procrastination mind going, oh, if it wasn't for this lockdown.
Yeah.
But like a point where you're about to turn your life around, I think they'll be like, oh, fine, I'll go to prison. But then there's those Korean prison hotels, isn't there? So like you go to escapes, and I've always thought, quite naively, that prison would be quite good. You know what I mean? Some time, some isolated time, chill out, work on yourself.
You get some time to work on yourself, and like But then
we've had that in lockdown, and I don't think people have really worked on themselves that much.
No, they haven't. But I've had this thing like in my as I've gotten older, I used to be like really like anti-military. Again, it's a weird teenage thing. You just kind of. I was very much kind of like, I don't know, like a left-wing teenager, and you follow the left-wing ideals, and that's being like anti-military, anti-war and everything, and then you get older and you're like, well, no, I can see reasons for this. If someone's being aggressive, you have to be aggressive. Like, I get it.
Well, the whole idea of anyone being anti-war has always fascinated me.
Yeah.
You'd be like, so what? So if somebody's right next to you stabbing babies with swords, you're just like, I'm against intervening in this.
Yeah.
It's like, so you just want to watch babies get stabbed?
Yeah.
That's like the most extreme, ridiculous example. But you go like, war is bad, but it's a necessary evil in certain circumstances. Everybody can agree with that.
It's a necessary evil to intervene, I think.
And you have to, and you can intervene passively. Yeah. Can you please stop stabbing those babies? No, I love stabbing babies. Well, then what do? Well, I'll physically stop you then. No, you won't. Well, then I've got to physically stop you against your will. And that's basically war. It's just, again, it's a complex issue that I think people simplify in their mind, don't they?
Yeah.
But they simplify it in ways that, I've obviously simplified it, but the way they've simplified it is wrong. They've simplified it in like an emotional way, I guess, as in like, no, it's bad. Yeah, that's the thing. They've gone through step one. War is bad. You're like, yes, we agree. Well, then how can it ever be good? Because it's necessary, and it's bad, but sometimes bad is needed. Yeah. I don't want to go that far. War is bad. Okay. Thanks for your contribution.
Yeah. But yeah, so I used to be quite anti-military, but then as I've gotten older, I've been like, it would have been nice to go and do a stint in the army, to get all that time to just do nothing but sharpen your discipline and sharpen your body and like like that. It would be. I think a lot of people would appreciate having the time and whatever to do that now.
Yeah. I've always liked the idea of I forget what it's called, but like mandatory service from like 18
conscription.
A year or two.
It's
not
sort
conscription,
but
it's called. There's something specific for it. There's a specific.
They've got it in some countries. I know what you mean. Like you have to serve X amount of years in the military.
Israel's got it. I think Sweden might have it. I can't remember. Something service. There's something. I've always been on board for that, but I wasn't allowed in the army. I tried when I was in crew.
Because you're asthma.
Yeah. He was. I've been judged by my asthma by firemen and soldiers. I wanted to be a fireman when I was a kid, and I had a friend at school whose dad was a fireman, so I was just chatting to him, and he was like, "Aren't you asthmatic?" And I was like, "Yeah." He was like, "Don't you think that might be a problem with fire?" Yeah, I guess. Never thought about it that way. And then I was in like my first year or something. I was in crew trying to sign up to the military just out of curiosity.
Yeah.
Because that's how all good ideas start. And then he was like, "Well, what if you have an asthma attack in the desert?" And I was like, "Well, I'll probably be fine." "No, you won't. You'll be a liability and a problem." All right. Bye. No, I think it might be like mandatory military service, something like that. But I always thought that's always would help a lot of people in a lot of ways. But there are people who, like you in your teens, they'll probably be like very against
particularly our generation. I feel like a lot of people fall behind just like I include myself in this. For the longest period of time, I'm definitely getting better now, but a lot of people fall behind because they've got no discipline.
Or just that purpose, and they just haven't got that purpose. They don't know they don't realise that their life is in their own hands. You know, they're able to do. You can do whatever it is you want to do. All you need to do is sit down and do it, and people just don't have that idea. They could be like, "Oh, something will come along. Oh, this will happen, and then everything will change." Or I'll do it tomorrow. And you'd be like, no, you could live your happiest life right now if you wanted. You just don't want to. Then it becomes a whole other thing to explore. Yeah, I always thought it'd be really good. I think a lot of the stuff I did in the Scouts, which isn't the same as the military, but a lot of the stuff I did in the Scouts was very beneficial to my well-being and knowing little things about having the feeling of being able to fend for yourself in some way. I think would help everybody.
Yeah.
I'm anti. I don't like war. Have you got anything more to say? No. It's bad. All right.
Yeah.
Thanks for playing.
In other news, a security guard in California has been charged with murder after shooting a customer who refused to wear a mask.
If you don't wear a mask, you're going to get hurt. No, I won't. What about now? What about now? Bang!
The incident occurred at the Gardena Market in South California on Sunday when the customer, Jerry Lewis, reportedly entered the store without a mask and got into an argument with the guard, Umair Hawkins. Lewis apparently left the store, returned, and continued fighting with Hawkins, who then fatally shot Lewis as he walked away.
No. That's it. Walk away. Walk away. Bang! But yeah, Americans especially. I think because it's trying to be enforced a little bit more in America, I guess. But Americans really hate being told to wear a mask.
Yeah, well, in California, it's mandatory. Like, the governor of California has been like, everybody has to wear a mask in public.
And there's so many videos of people trying to get into like Walmart without a mask.
Yeah.
And it's just like
free
a
country,
child.
Free country. Like, all right,
Yeah.
but it's a free country, but like, I don't like masks. I think the idea is stupid. I don't think it's a proven science. But if it says on the door of a building that I don't own, you have to wear a mask to come in here, that's not my choice anymore. It's like it's
not
my house, my
science.
rules.
It's not a proven science. Batman wore a mask. He's fine. There's a whole wave of just people just being stupid. And people are stupid anyway, but I think right now it's been people being locked up on their own, going crazy or whatever. Did you hear about the Karen law that's being brought in?
Oh, God. What?
There's been so many cases of women calling the police on races being like, there's a black guy, and I had it in my notes, but I didn't type it up, about like she called the police because a black guy was bird watching. He's looking at birds. So there's
what if
this
he
new
stopped
law
looking at
being
me?
passed. There's been so many of them. I think it's in California where it's now going to be illegal to unjustifiably call the police on somebody. Because, like, if you're doing it because there's somebody in the park and you're only threatened because... I should look into it a bit more, but yeah, it's called the Karen Bill in California, and it seems to be based somewhat loosely on race. So, like, if you call the police and it's totally unfound and thought that you're just wasting people's time, lying, making stuff up, or just being stupid, then we're going to penalise you for it in some way.
Right.
And they've called it the Karen Law, so that's good.
I don't know. I don't like open-ended laws like that. I don't like laws that can be like that aren't black and white. That there's no. You can't have a certainty about it.
So if somebody's called, because there was I think we had an article about this a while ago. Somebody called the police because Domino's delivered a pizza without enough cheese on it.
Yeah.
Right. Should that person be penalised in any way, or should it just be we just have to accept that this guy's maybe mentally ill and humour him?
I think you're going to get those kind of things. Like, I don't think fining a guy like that is going to solve anything. The idea that it's going to cut down on those calls, I don't think it's going to happen. What?
The idea that you're going to teach this guy a lesson to not call the police because of a pizza, you'd be like, that lesson was probably taught to him a few times and
right.
Didn't really get through.
Yeah.
So I don't know if you charging a $20 fine is going to, or whatever the fine is.
Well, like, if you got a fine through, like, don't call the police about your pizza, he'd be like, well, who am I supposed to call?
Fire department.
Yeah.
Nurse. Although I guess, right, you kind of
like,
go,
you can't. You're not gonna. If somebody is irrationally threatened, let's say, by a black guy, they're being irrational and they feel threatened by their presence. Like, threatening to fine them isn't going to stop them feeling threatened. Like, there's a certain degree of reprogramming that has to go on there, that on a societal level that isn't fucking that's got that a fine isn't gonna fix.
The funny thing about it, I guess, is it's a law saying that it's risky to call the police on a black guy for being innocent because the police might just kill him.
Yeah.
I guess they're basically trying to deter as many solvable situations. Just try not to get the police involved, please. About something that's an inconvenience to you. I'll look into it a bit more for next week.
Yeah.
But yeah, it seemed funny. But yeah, pretty stupid.
I saw a video this week. It's unrelated, but I saw a video this week of a police officer. He was laughing to himself. He was filming himself on TikTok, and he was laughing because he was going to a rally. He'd been asked by protesters to go to a rally, and the thing that they were protesting for was defunding the police. And they'd asked him to go there to protect them, and he was just like, what the fuck is this timeline? Like, I'm going to protect these people who want me to lose my job.
You want me to not have enough money to protect them,
and not because I've been asked to by the state, but because these people have asked me to come and defend them. Like, it's so ridiculous.
We don't need the police. We've got Gareth.
Hey,
you're right, Gareth. He's the police, right? Yeah. Totally disagree with what you're doing.
And finally,
the current act apparently, briefly, was apparently to stop false reports against people of colour. So I guess you could argue that, I mean, if you made 1,000 false police reports about somebody because you don't like them because of their race, I feel like that's already a crime. So maybe this is like pushing it forward a little bit more towards the limelight, I guess. Yeah,
I think as long as it can't be, as long as it can't
open-ended.
be misconstrued. I guess.
Like criminal mischief.
Yeah, well, I mean,
just how mischievous.
I think if this, let's say, I think there'd be plenty of people who've had the police called on them because they look suspicious, and it has really nothing to do with their race. It's because the person who called them felt threatened. It could be that they've been standing outside of their house for a strange amount of time, or
I had one of those.
Yeah, like that happens.
Yeah, 2 police cars came up both sides of the car I was in because I was outside chatting with someone, and my lights were on, and they were because we were on a hill. It was shining on someone's house.
Oh,
like,
right.
Oh, we just didn't realise. All right. And they went, okay, bye. All right.
Yeah, but like that kind of thing happens all the time. And I think in those situations, like, people are justified to call the police.
It's the intention, isn't it? If they genuinely feel threatened.
But I think people are justified in doing so because I can't speak for their experience.
Yeah. If they're genuinely feeling threatened and they would feel safer by calling the police, I think everyone agrees, yeah, sure.
Yeah.
I guess the idea is trying to cut down on people doing it because they feel like it would inconvenience the other person rather than help the individual.
Right, exactly. But how do you write a law that can differentiate between those two incidents? I don't think you can.
They have, and it's called Karen.
But I don't think it does. I think you'll get a lot of people that are like, but like
you'll get a lot of Karens. Yeah. Trying to write the law is always weird.
Yeah,
I think
it's the same reason I don't like hate crime laws. It's like you have to. You're making a law about what someone intended by something that they said, like, but you can't tell them what they intended.
Are there hate crime laws
in this country? Yeah, that's what that's what that whole Count Dankula thing got done for. Like, fucking, when was that? 3 years ago? 4 years ago? When he made the Nazi pug video. It was very clearly a joke, but because they get to decide what his intention was, they decided he intended for it to be hateful.
Yeah, I guess.
Like, I don't like laws that are open-ended like that. I think it has to be like more black and white.
I mean, it'd be more of a hate crime to neuter the dog against its will, right? You would think. No, I've taught him to wave and his elbow joints are stiff, so fuck that pug. You know what I mean? Weird ones.
Yeah, and finally, should Joey Chestnut, famed hot dog eating contest hero,
be
included in the debate of greatest athlete of all time? Joey,
it's definitely a sport. Definitely a sport.
Joey Chestnut made history on Saturday, digesting a world record 75 hot dogs in 10 minutes to further cement his legacy as the greatest competitive eater of all time. One user tweeted, "Quite possibly the most dominant athlete ever," in reference to Chestnut's accomplishments. Chestnut's 13th mustard yellow belt prompted ESPN to show the 36-year-old's feat side by side with other athletes who have won the same competition or title over the course of their careers. That list included Rafael Nadal's 12 French Open titles, Bill Russell's 11 NBA championship rings, and one CBS Sports tweet showed a photo of Michael Jordan and Tom Brady's combined 12 championships being outdone by Chestnut's 13 hot dog titles.
It's definitely a sport, right? It's got to be a sport.
Well, you'd think there's a certain degree of training, or there is a skill, there's technique, there's something. It's one of those things where I argue, like, I always have trouble with it, but like, is darts a sport? I mean, it's definitely a game, and there's definitely a physical element. I have trouble calling like.
Is javelin a sport?
Yeah, that's the thing. I have trouble calling like golf players athletes, but like they are. Like it's, you know what I mean.
The only grey area for me is wrestlers,
like pro wrestlers or.
Sure, like WWE wrestlers.
Right. Okay.
You'd be like, there's definitely an element of athleticism required in the same way that it's required for bodybuilding and for,
wrestling
movements,
is interesting.
Dance.
There is competitiveness. The competitiveness to get to the top, though, is fought on a political level. Like backstage in the relationships that you build and everything like that. Like it's
a bit weird to commentate.
Yeah, like that's that kind of thing that's all decided behind the scenes is decided by your relationship with people and how much you can be relied on. It's very much the same way that that people kind of climb up the ranks in political parties.
It's not just the script writers or whatever.
Well, yeah. As in, they're the ones that decide, but the company's not gonna have you as the main guy if they can't rely on you, and you have to prove that over a number of years, based on the things that you do.
Like footballers, right? Managers aren't going to buy players who are unreliable. I guess.
Yeah.
Like,
it's interesting. I think there is a sport element to it, but it's definitely not a sport in a traditional way. They call it.
But I think the only reason it's not a sport is because it's not a fair physical contest.
Yeah.
It's entertainment. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's the only reason. That's the only reason that kind of gets a bit blurred for me. But like, yeah. So I'd say that competitive eating is a sport, but you go, is it as athletic as other sports?
As Michael Jordan's 12 championship wins.
I mean, it's so competitive eating is really weird because there's some people who look like they don't train at all. They're like like average people, and then they can really eat food. Like, it is a sport. It just might not be as much of a sport as all the other animals on the farm. You know what I mean? It's just like,
I think it's a sport in the same way that like arm wrestling is a sport, right?
Yeah.
It's on that same level.
Yeah, there's a competitive aspect.
Yeah.
Just as like a sprint is a sport. Running fast, that's a sport.
Yeah. And the competition was Nathan's famous hot dog eating contest.
Yep, very famous contest.
Very famous. I mean, so famous.
And Joey Chestnut's, did ring bells. I just couldn't quite figure out exactly where it was.
Oh, really?
I think he's a very famous food eater,
yeah. But, 13 wins. Go on, Joey Chestnut. Beat out Michael Jordan, beat out Tom Brady.
Beat out Mahatma Gandhi.
Yeah.
Beat out Nelson Mandela. 13's bigger than 5.
Yeah.
whatever it is. Yeah, but you ate hot dogs.
Yeah, that's me this week.
It's just eating quickly as well. It's not even eating the most. It's eating quickly.
Mm.
That's the weird.
Well, he ate 75 in 10 minutes. He beat every other contestant by 33 hot dogs.
Yeah, well, he's the Michael Jordan of hot dogs.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, it's just eating it so fast. So they dip it in water and they don't chew, and it's just like
gannets.
I'd happily see someone who eats the most and just give it like, I don't know, an hour. Give them an hour. Chill out. People love the rush of people choking to death.
Oh, I
couldn't die now.
I'm not. It's weird. If you'd asked me when I was young, you'd be like, "Oh yeah, well up for that." And like these days, I'm just like, "No, I just want to enjoy my food."
Oh, yeah, I'd never take part in one.
No,
never. No point. I'd watch one though. I'd be like, I'd like to see who dies. Yeah, someone's gonna die.
Yeah.
I've got to see this.
Well, I used to watch like Man vs. Food quite a bit. I always thought those were quite fun. The ones that always get I always thought like I'd have a go at a lot of these. I'd fail because I can't eat that much. Like, really, I think I used to be able to eat quite a lot more than I can now. I just can't. But the ones that I wouldn't do, that I never saw the point of, was like the spice challenges, where it'd be like, this thing's like hotter than, I don't know, Mount Serrat. And you'd have to eat a whole basket of them.
But I think there's a difference in taste, isn't it? I love spice, and I think you've always been quite... Like, the way I asked you about a Vindaloo recipe a while ago, it was a Vindaloo. You like, it's just, I guess there's a level of spice where you can't taste anything anymore.
Yeah, I've not got a problem with spice. I just like to be able to taste the food.
And that's what I'm saying.
I don't like the point where it takes over.
Can't taste.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think my bracket is much, much higher for that, just because I've eaten so much spicy food that like, spicy to me is very different to spicy to somebody else. Yeah. And it's like, you can really appreciate the flavours of a very spicy dish, where some people are still like, oh my god, it's overwhelming. You're like, oh, you get used to it and you go on it. Yeah. Like, I'm a big fan of like hot ones and stuff like that. And it's like, that's something that I would do, is, have ridiculously spicy food. I have a craving, same way that, we both have cravings for crunch every now and then. It's the same. I get a feeling of every now and then, like, I really want something spicy, like something so spicy I can't breathe.
I never have that.
I get that pretty regularly, once a month at the very least, and it's just. I think it's a drug. I think it's genuinely a drug.
It
spice.
Is. Well, like you get a proper serotonin response to it and everything, don't you?
Yeah, but there's also that same feeling you get when you eat like a really nutritious meal that you've been craving. You're like, oh, that's really hit the spot. You get that with certain spice when the spice hits a certain level and then like plateaus out. You're like, oh, that's great.
Yeah.
Like having a shepherd's pie without pepper or any kind of broth without a nice amount of pepper doesn't have the same hearty feel to me.
Yeah.
I'm just like, it's a stew, okay, but it needs this spice.
Yeah.
This amount of spice for it to add it to me. You know? So I think it's just a taste thing.
Yeah.
So yeah, hot sauce.
Hot sauce.
Hot sauce. Always good.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, interesting week. Ish, kind of. Karen. Bits and bobs. Changed headphones midway through. These are horrible because you come out of them. So I've got this like turned down to volume 1.
Oh right,
so
so
that
you can't
hopefully I
hear
don't
a
get
lot.
any echo. But yeah, it's all right. So yeah, I guess that's the end of the episode. I'm at Nick Snip.
I am at Sing It Steve.
Yeah, we're at Pudding Teeth Pod on Twitter and Instagram, and we're at Pudding Teeth Podcast on Facebook.
You can email us at wisdom@puddingteethpodcast.com. Send us all your everything.
Everything.
And subscribe to us on YouTube, subscribe to us on Apple or Spotify or Podbean or wherever the fuck you find us.
Wherever it is.
Yeah.
And also check out the website if you want. We've got www.puddingteethpodcast.com, which has got all of our videos on it. And more contact details, more information, and an Amazon banner if you'd like to support the podcast at the top right. If you're going to go to Amazon anyway, just go to our website first, click on the Amazon banner, and then do your shopping as normal. And then we might get a kickback in support of the podcast because of us pushing you towards them. So that's always interesting to see.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's us.
Cool.
It's all fun. Not in a car this week. Not in a car. Maybe again later.
Yeah.
Although if the gyms are open in a couple of weeks, it might be back to normal.
Hopefully. Yeah, I mean, we're approaching
Hopefully.
episode 200.
Yeah, it would be nice to get back to normal by 200, I guess.
Yeah.
In some form or another. But yeah, back to normal. Putting teeth, talking about China invading India and armless combat on a mountain. Whatever it is. But yeah, see you next week.
Yeah, see you next week.